Hello everyone, my name is Nurfarihatul Husna binti Hanizam, and I will be starting off our discussion regarding pedophilic disorder. Pedophilic disorder is one of the most highly stigmatized mental conditions, often associated in public discourse with moral condemnation and assumptions of criminal behavior. Research shows that stigma appears to media stereotyping, strong emotional reactions such as fear and disgust, and support for punitive measures as the primary form of prevention. While public perception is important to understand, the clinical definition of pedophilic disorder is clearly outlined in the DSM-5. Clinically, it is classified as a paraphilic disorder and is defined by persistent sexual interest in prepubescent children for at least 6 months, followed by distress, interpersonal difficulties, or having acted on these urges. Moreover, the DSM-5 distinguishes between individuals with pedophilic disorder and those with pedophilic interests who have not acted on these urges or experienced clinical impairment. Media failure to make this distinction has contributed to widespread misconceptions, creating fear and shame that discourage help seeking. Therefore, combining public awareness with accurate clinical knowledge is essential to reduce stigma and promote appropriate support and intervention.
For this section, I will be discussing the causes and the risk factors of pedophilic disorder. Firstly, it is important to understand that pedophilic disorder does not have a single, specific cause. Research suggests that it develops through a complex interaction of biological, psychological, and social factors rather than one isolated factor alone. From a psychological perspective, early childhood experience play a significant role. Individuals who have experienced childhood trauma, such as sexual abuse, neglect, or disrupted attachment, may face difficulties in emotional and sexual development. This early adverse experience can affect how a person forms relationships and regulates emotion later in life. In some cases, distorted thinking patterns may develop, where harmful behaviors toward children are minimized or justified. Poor emotional regulation and weak impulse control further increase the risk of inappropriate sexual thoughts or behavior. In addition to psychological factors, biological factors may also contribute, although they do not act independently. Some studies suggest that differences in brain structure or brain functioning, particularly in areas related to sexual arousal, impulse control, and self-regulation, may be present in certain individuals. Neurodevelopmental issues that impair inhibition and decision-making can increase vulnerability, especially when combined with psychological stressors and environmental influences. Moving on to social and environmental factors. Factors such as social isolation, lack of healthy adult relationships, and limited social support may increase emotional dependence on maladaptive coping mechanisms. Research also indicates that head or brain injuries may contribute to changes in impulse control and sexual behavior. Additionally, early exposure to sexual content and easy access to online material involving minors can normalize harmful behaviors, particularly in the absence of proper supervision or early intervention. Overall, pedophilic disorder emerged from the interaction of multiple risk factors rather than a single cause. Understanding these contributing factors is crucial for prevention, early identification, and effective intervention, especially within clinical and counseling psychology settings.
Hello everyone, now I'm going to focus on the prevalence of pedophilic disorder in Malaysia and how real cases help us understand this issue. Determining how common pedophilic disorder is in Malaysia is difficult because most available data comes from reported child sexual abuse cases, not clinical diagnosis based on DSM-5 criteria. This means official statistics mainly reflects criminal offenses rather than the actual number of individuals with pedophilic interests. Not everyone who commits sexual abuse meets the clinical criteria of pedophilic disorder. And at the same time, many individuals with pedophilic urge never act on them. As a result, the true prevalence of the disorder is likely underreported. Several real cases in Malaysia highlight this complexity. In Kedah, 2 teachers were removed from their teaching duties while investigations were carried out over alleged sexual misconducts involving students. This case raised public concern about child safety in schools and showed how such incidents often come to attention only after reports are made. Another well-reported case occurred in Terengganu, where a teacher was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment and 6 strokes of the cane for sexually assaulting a 50-year-old student. This case demonstrated the seriousness of the offense and the strong legal consequences. But it also reflects criminal behavior rather than a confirmed clinical diagnosis of pedophilic disorder. When we link these cases back to prevalence, it becomes clear that relying solely on crime statistics does not give a full picture of the disorder. Fear of stigma and legal consequences may prevent individuals with persistent pedophilic urge from seeking help, making the condition difficult to measure accurately. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Abigail Lim Hui Yi. My matrix number is 103061. Today I'll be presenting on our research report on pedophilic disorder. Our goal was to move past the social stigma and look at this issue through a clinical lens, specifically focusing on how awareness can lead to better child protection in Malaysia. One of the most important distinctions we make in our report is between attraction and offense. While attraction is the disorder, the offense is the criminal act. Understanding this distinction is the first step in prevention. To see where the public stand, we surveyed 43 individuals, mostly young adults ranging from 18 to 24 years old, and 72% of our sample population is female. As for the survey finding, here's what we found. 77% of the people have heard of this disorder, and 79% have correctly identified it as a mental health condition. However, a significant gap exists. Only 41.8% of the respondents realized that an individual can have this disorder without having committed a crime. This shows a heavy criminal stigma that might have prevented people from seeking help early. On a positive note, there is an overwhelming call for clinical intervention. Over 90% of our participants agree that professional mental health support is necessary and that public education is the key to protecting our children. To keep it short, 93% see this as a risk. 91% agree on the idea of support therapy and public education, while 88% focus on back early intervention. In conclusion, our survey proves that the public is ready for proactive, health-based approach. If we can bridge the gap between fear and clinical understanding, we can create a safer Malaysia for everyone. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum everyone, my name is Nurul Shafika Azwa binti Sukinin and I will be explaining about the role of psychologists in managing pedophilic disorder. I will focus on 3 main areas, which are assessing and diagnosing, psychological intervention, and multidisciplinary coordination. Psychologists begin by conducting a thorough assessment, often using the DSM-5 as a guideline to make an accurate diagnosis. This includes tools like clinical interviews and neuropsychological tests. Diagnosing pedophilic disorder is complex because not everyone with sexual interest in children meets the criteria, and cases are often underreported, which is hard to know how common it really is. Thus, psychologists help distinguish between mere sexual interest and actual harmful behavior, as well as assessing the potential risk of harm to others. Once a diagnosis is made, psychologists provide psychological intervention. Psychotherapy, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT, is commonly used to address distorted beliefs and improve self-control. Relapse prevention therapy helps with long-term management, guiding individuals to recognize high-risk situations and develop coping strategies to prevent harm. Moreover, psychologists may also work with psychiatrists if medication is needed. Medication like CPA can reduce both sexual interest and behavior, while MPA reduce sexual fantasies. However, treatment intensity must be based on the person's level of offending risk. Finally, psychologists collaborate with other professionals to ensure comprehensive care. They work with the legal system by providing psychological reports for court cases, and they follow mandatory safety guidelines when there is risk to others. Additionally, they also coordinate with social services such as child protection agencies to create risk management plans. Research shows that interprofessional collaboration is particularly effective for high-risk individuals like those with pedophilic disorder. In a nutshell, psychologists play a big role in assessing and diagnosing, provide therapy and support, and work closely with other professionals. Their work not only helps in manage behavior and reduce risk, but also protects both individual and community. That's all from me. Thank you for listening.
To conclude, pedophilic disorder is a highly stigmatized mental health condition that is often associated with criminal behavior by the general public, largely due to media portrayals and societal misconceptions. However, the DSM-5 clearly distinguishes between individuals with pedophilic interests and those diagnosed with pedophilic disorder, emphasizing that a clinical diagnosis requires significant distress, impairment, or acted upon behavior. Findings from the survey support the presence of a stigma, as many respondents linked pedophilic interest directly to criminal behavior. Despite this, there was strong support for professional intervention, early identification, and public education, indicating an openness towards effective preventative and supportive approaches. Understanding both public perceptions and clinical distinctions is essential, as pedophilic disorder is influenced by psychological, biological, and social factors. Clinical and counseling psychologists therefore play a critical role in assessment, risk management, and intervention. Bridging the gap between misconception and clinical knowledge may reduce stigma and encourage help-seeking among affected individuals. That is all from us, and on the behalf of my group, I would like to say thank you for listening.